Howdy folks, this is part 2 of a series, a little mini series that I'm doing on slope as a rational function, okay? And so this is our master formula that we're going to use. You should write this down in your notes, okay? What we're trying to understand is that slope is equal to, we know that it's equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we've turned it into a formula where instead of putting a y here, we put a function f of x. And instead of having an x2 here, we're just going to use the general variable x. See, in this case, x1 and y1, those are not variables. Those are constant values, and they are given by a particular point on the graph of a particular function. Which function? F of x. And so technically, this would actually be, instead of y1, we can actually call it, ready for this? We're going to call it f of x1. So whatever x value we choose, and it's arbitrary, we can choose any x value to put in here. We would plug it into the function and get an output value. Okay? So this is, so you can either say f of x minus y1 over x minus x1, or you can say f of x minus f of x1 over x minus x1. And what we're going to find is that when f of x is a linear function, like if f of x is equal to 2x minus 9, okay, you can see that in this linear function that the slope is 2. And since the slope is 2, it doesn't matter what we plug into this, the answer will always come up as 2. But if this is not a linear function, if this is a function kind of like maybe x squared plus 7, then what's going to happen here is this is not going to have the same answer at every point. Okay? What's going to happen is if you choose some arbitrary x value, plug it in here, get an output value, plug it into here, okay? And then plug x squared plus 7 into here, because that's what we're going to do, then it will come up as a different number every time, depending on what you plug in for the other x value, okay? And so I know that all that sounded confusing, so let's just maybe just cut to the chase. Here's what I want you to be able to do. But I need to clarify something. When the function is not a linear function, this m is not actually going to be the slope of the function itself. It's actually going to be the slope of, it's actually going to be what's called the average slope, or the average rate of change of the function over 2 points, okay? So let's go back. Let's change this. I'm going to call this x1, y1. Here's what I'm going to do to you. Here's what I'm going to have you do. These are the kinds of problems I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you this formula, and then I'm going to say what is slope as a rational function if f of x is equal to x squared plus 7 when x is equal to 3. When x is equal to 3. And here's what you'll do. The first thing that you'll do is you'll write an m. So just follow along with me. Write this down. You'll write an m, and you'll write equals. Then, instead of writing f of x, you'll write what f of x is equal to. X squared plus 7. And you'll put it in parentheses. Then you'll put a minus. Then you will plug this number into the function, x squared plus 7. Well, if I plug a 3 in here, what's 3 squared plus 7? 3 squared plus 7. Well, 3 squared, that's 9, right? Okay? Plus 7, well, that's 16. So we're going to put minus 16 here. And it's going to be over x minus whatever x value I gave you, 3. And then you'll simplify the numerator. And we have x squared, and then we have plus 7 minus 16. Well, what's 7 minus 16? Well, that's negative 9, right? So this is going to become x squared minus 9 over x minus 3. And so then you will say, well, Mr. Ryan, the slope, m, of the function f of x, the slope is equal to x squared minus 9 over x minus 3. And then you'll be done. Okay? Let's do another one, shall we? So we've got our formula, and let's say I tell you that f of x is equal to 3x squared plus 4x minus 1. And I want to know what this is at x equals negative 5. At x equals negative 5. So here's what you'll do. You'll write an m equals, then in parentheses, you'll write this function. 3x squared plus 4x minus 1, minus, now let's plug negative 5 into the function itself. And we'll have 3 times negative 5 squared plus 4 times negative 5 minus 1. Well, negative 5 squared, that's 25, right? Times 3 is 75, so I got 75. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20, and then we have a minus 1. Well, 75 minus 20, that's 55. 55 minus 1, that's 54. So I'll put minus 54. And then I'll draw this line. And I don't need this anymore. I'm just doing some calculations. You can do it in a calculator if you want to. All right. Over x minus negative 5, right? Because x1, the x we gave you is negative 5. So x minus negative 5, well, x minus negative 5, isn't that the same thing as x plus 5? So I'll have over x plus 5. And so our answer would be m is equal to 3x squared plus 4x. Then I have minus 1 minus 54. I got to combine those. What's negative 1 minus 54? What's negative 55, right? So I have negative 55 all over x plus 5. And you're done. And this would be correct. Okay, so I want you to write slope as a rational function for the function f of x is equal to 2x to the 6th power plus 7x to the 3rd power minus 3. So we're going to go m is equal to, and then instead of writing f of x, we're going to write what f of x is equal to. In parentheses, 2x to the 6th plus 7x to the 3rd minus 3 minus whatever this is equal to if we plug 1 in. Well, if we plug a 1 in, we got 1 to the 6th power, that's 1. 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 to the 3rd power, that's 1. 1 times 7 is 7. So put a 7 here. Minus 3. 2 plus 7 is 9. 9 minus 3 is 6. So I'll put a 6 here, right? Over x minus 1. 1. And now all I have to do is combine the negative 3 and the negative 6, and I'm done. M is equal to 2x to the 6th plus 7x to the 3rd. Minus 3 minus 6 is minus 9. All over x minus 1. And there is your slope equation. Your slope function, slope as a rational function. Okay? We're going to do just one more. Oh, you were afraid this was going to happen sometime, weren't you? Now, instead of having a polynomial, we're going to say that f of x is equal to sine of x. Oops. All right, that's okay. We can do this. And look, even the yardstick is afraid of this function. It jumped off. It wanted to get as far away from this problem as possible. If it had legs, it would probably run out the door. All right, look, this is really easy, folks. Just what do you do? Step 1, write an m and an equals. Step 2, write the function, sine of x. Step 3, put a minus. Step 4, plug the x value into the x into the function. What is sine of pi over 6? Sine of pi over 6. All right, guys, get out your unit circles in your brain or look it up online. Sine of pi over 6 is 1/2, right? So we'll put minus 1/2. You can also put 0.5 if you want to, divided by x minus whatever x is, pi over 6. Pi over 6. Now let me tell you the good news here. The good news here is that there's no simplifying that needs to be done. This is actually done. That's actually your final answer. We just did it. And wasn't that easy? That was a lot easier, even easier than the, well, this might have been the hard part. But otherwise, that would be your answer. You would just write sine of x minus 1/2 over x minus pi over 6, and you're done. Okay, so there will be several problems where where I give you a bunch of these functions, and you have to write slope as a rational function. All right, I have one more video for you because we're actually going to do something with these rational functions.